Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Getting ready for some good stuff today. Super excited. Um, so here's what we are tracking on for today's meditation. I am thrilled for the theme that has presented itself because running these, it's always nice to have some construct, right, to guide us. And we can follow the astrology and we can tune in to different elements and aspects that are showing up as, I'm working with clients and in the field. Um, but it's always nice when there is an overarching theme to help me help you educate yourself even more deeply beyond just showing up, tuning in, and doing the work. And so the theme, for example, like when we do like a goddess track or, a series of meditations that are tuned in like that, especially when we were working the unveiling. So in true form with the meditations and calling in the different Metatronic aspects, we are, as they present themselves, and I've already got a list compiled, going to be tracking on different elements of the Metatronic spiritual energy body, and then weaving those together as we always do with the astrology, with the quantum teachings, with everything that we are up to. So, with that, today's first teaching is around the eye of Horus, as well as the evil eye, and honestly, just all inner eyes. So, for those of you that have experienced that, right? Experienced when you're in meditation, and maybe that visual, that inner eye visual starts to come through, and you see an eye passing through, or you just can sense like energy in the back of your pineal gland activating. Well, that's what we're going to be tracking on today. So I want to welcome everyone, especially as you're just dropping in. And what I love, love, love about this being the first meditation, um, so I call these different aspects. I like to call it the advanced spiritual technology as well, because it's stuff that's out there. But when we think of an evil eye, or say the eye of Horus or the eye of Ra, we aren't like thinking about it being connected to an energy center, right? It's more so just symbolic of something we're going to be able to achieve. And so what's brilliant about this spiritual tech is that it's showing up on the backside and within the window of the astrology that's presenting itself right now, which is this 2 week window of a lunar and solar eclipse. That the lunar eclipse is somewhat soft, meaning it wasn't perfectly, it was off 15 degrees. The nodes, they look at how the moon is tracking against the north and the south node versus like the solar the ecliptical line. And so it was 15 degrees off of that. So it wasn't a full eclipse. It was what they call a penumbral eclipse. However, the solar eclipse is going to be a full eclipse, and we will not experience a full eclipse like this in this capacity, in these signs and all of those elements until 2044 again. So why does this matter, and how does this help us, even if, especially for those of you who are catching this recording outside of this ecliptical window, is that what happens no matter when an energetic or an astrological effect happens, not only did you experience it most likely, uh, but it also is opening up a specific field of energy that at any given time we can tune into if the energy gets pinned. So it's like the ecliptical's there. We want to go in and take a look at whatever we're able to work on and access elements of who and what we are at a future date. So anyone who's coming in at a future date is still going to be able to come back. It's not calendar or timestamp dependent. It's going to be just as impactful. And so what is so cool to me about the concept of the eye, the seeing eye, the Nezar, as they're called, or the evil eye in the Hindu culture, or the eye of Horus and the eye of Ra in the Egyptian cultures. They are two different. They actually, in both of those mythological systems, have very different meaning. And we're going to get into that as we drop into the meditation. However, what is relevant for today about them is that the moon is essentially, it's in a what's called a bucket position, meaning the moon is over here and all of these major planets are like ringing the moon, and the moon is sitting in a position like it's the handle. So what does that mean? It means that we can see into the different elements that those other planetary aspects represent. It means that we can see aspects of our shadow self that would not normally be available. And the shadow, of course, is all encompassed in our inner eye, in our inner vision. And so it's almost like the moon is sitting up there in that bucket position above the cradle of all the other planets that are being created when you look at them on the chart, and especially coming out of this eclipse window. And it's like the moon is serving as that eye to look in at the shadow. So pretty cool timing that the question came up. Thank you for that. And also I've wanted to do this for ages, and it's like there's so many different things, and then I lost track of it and just forgot that this was on my list to be weaving in a way to structure and weave into our meditation. So enough talking on my part. What I want to have you do is we're going to begin to cycle breath, breathing in and out. Nice deep inhale, even bigger exhale. And we are going to be tracking in towards that inner eye, towards that inner vision. Again, breathing in and exhaling out. And what I want to have you do is activate your light link. Shadow work, it sounds challenging, it sounds rough, but as I mentioned in yesterday's meditation, just because we cannot see our nose, we can still see our nose, but it's easier to see it when we're looking in a mirror. And the moon serves, the inner eye especially serves as that ability to see things clearly in the darkness. And there are patterns that present themselves, right? There is energy that can show up that at other times we could be trying to solve it. And then suddenly in a window like this, it's like an emotion percolates up, a situation that triggers you percolates up to the surface. And when we can recognize it for what it is, we can say, aha, use our inner vision, allow those emotions to flush through and really clear it out and make the shifts. It can literally be windows like this are opportunities to shift our navigational direction, right? To ensure that we are not carrying extra energy or vortices of emotional energy within our body that are going to cause us to wobble or veer off course. So with that, continuing your breath, imagining the sun shining down, let's really focus in. We want to do a big light link sun activation today, ironically. We're going to really pull this field in because we want to go right into your star seed. So feeling the warmth of the sun, really allowing for that sense of inner vision to come to the forefront. Let it turn on and turn all the way up. We haven't done this activation in this traditional way in a while. So really allowing the heat of the sun to permeate through as though you've just stepped outside and it is just melting your inner vision. So much so that in a moment, if I were to tell you to open your eyes, you couldn't because you feel so much light flooding into your eyes, just like when you've stepped outside on a bright sunny day. And continue to cycle the breath here. Let's use the breath. Go ahead, you could even give a little bit of a Mula Bandha squeeze in the pelvic floor as you breathe in. And just squeeze through the core. A couple breaths here, just warming that core up. Doing great, getting your breath much more intentional and focused. Beautiful. And as you're ready now, shifting to the second part of our light link, feeling the earth beneath your feet. Feeling the earth beneath your feet. And as you feel the earth beneath your feet, just letting yourself be carried away to wherever your energy body guides you, whether it's the beach, the sounds of the waves, or grass, and a gentle breeze, or a high mountain meadow. All of these are good starting points. Or just simply connecting straight into that crystal quartz at the center of the earth. Go ahead and drop all the way in now, those feet into the center of that crystal quartz. You may want to call on some water energy, imagining your feet in a cool, clear stream or the ocean pulling on your feet as the tide goes out, as the waves go back into the ocean, that momentum crashing on shore and going back, much like your breath. Coming back to the breath now, we want to come into our heart space. I want to have you do a couple Mula Bandha squeezes here. For those of you who are just dropping in today, that means breathing all the way into the belly and squeezing as you breathe into the belly through the upper rib cage and exhaling, breathing in through the belly, squeezing through the belly button against the breath. So holding the breath, but squeezing with the muscles. And then breathing in all the way as though a water balloon has filled all the way up and it's resting against your pelvic floor. Breathing all the way in, really feeling that tailbone and that pelvic floor activating and then squeezing against it. And we're going to do this 2 more times. Again, breathing in and squeezing against it. Beautiful. And as you do, feeling that burst, feeling that pop of energy, breathing in and out. And as that burst, as though we've squeezed the crystal quartz, we've popped the water balloon and it's being exploding up and through our energy body, through our mind, feeling it filling up with that luminescent, beautiful rainbowy light from the earth. As we bring our focus back to the sun, coming into the heart space and allowing yourself to just land in a room as though the sun and the crystal quartz have completely encompassed us, as though we're completely enshrouded in this orb of light, or it could look like a room with all white surrounding you, as though there is, through your imagination in that inner mind, the opportunity to paint whatever you choose to paint on the walls, to allow, just like a movie projection, for the scene to unfold before you. And so I want to have you envision sitting in the center of this all white room, this all white space. It could be like a globe, much like the globe in Vegas, right? With those projection screens, the sphere, the sphere. You could imagine it like that, or you can imagine it with white walls and a white ceiling. You may envision yourself sitting cross-legged, crisscross applesauce, as my kids used to say, in the center of the room. And let's just breathe here, continuing to give a couple Mula Bandha squeezes, really building the field of energy, because we are going to start to play in just a moment. So we want to set the field, really activating your starseed, your superconscious. When we hit this room, we are fully engaging the third eye. We are fully engaging our entire energy field. So continue to up-level the frequency, inviting that starseed, that superconscious, to really take over, handing over the reins from the conscious mind, just allowing yourself to follow the sounds of my voice so that the superconscious can guide you through this vision, as opposed to you interpreting and analyzing and trying to figure out all of these components and elements. Beautiful. All right. So what's interesting about the concept of our inner eye and our inner vision, what many may not recognize is we have not only the pineal gland, so go ahead and focus in on that. As I mention these different areas, I invite you just to find them and ping them, maybe light them up, imagining them lighting up with that luminescent light. The pineal gland that carries a phenomenal amount of function from an intuitive perspective. It is our interpreter, if you will. But what we get to take into consideration are, so before I drop into that too much, what I want to have you do with that pineal gland is go ahead and scan the room around you 360 degrees. In fact, I want to have you call in a halo of light, or as though you're wearing a crown, just a simple illuminated crown. Don't do jewels or anything else. We don't need to move into that level of the projection. And just scan around your head, around your body, and check in that all 360 degrees are illuminated. Just check in, and whatever is needing to be released, allow that to just be flushed out by the field. If there's any areas, maybe back left side, different areas, if our aura has taken on, or if you've had a cold or some illness recently, it can get all messed up. The aura can impact our centers of vision. The second element that I want to have you connect with is that halo. And so what you may notice here, and I really want you to focus in on subtle energy. And what may become present here is how bright is the light for you? Say left side versus right side, front versus back. Go ahead and just feel into these subtle nuances. Feel into these subtle nuances. Some of you may be more shadowed on one side or the other, depending on your energy, body, and experience. And because this is advanced, now as we move into these more subtle aspects, we're working advanced spiritual tech. Why do I call it that? I call it that because one, for you to be able to show up here and just activate a halo is a big deal. It takes a certain level of clearing and opening. And if in any way you're struggling with that, just call upon your angels, ask for the support, ask your superconscious to show you what that is. But beyond that, activating these different inner eyes and visions, we have aspects of our energy body that are being restricted, right? We have different programs that are running, much like a computer running a set of software, different programs that are running that can also impact how open our inner vision is. And these subtle nuances, we're able to drop in. And in fact, for my upcoming programming with the Meta Code, it's going to be the next evolution beyond the detox of the Metatron code, and it's leverage your inner assets. Obviously, third eye is one, and the getting the energy flowing to really work this eye will be one of the aspects that we focus in on. So stay tuned for deets and information about that. But what I want to have you focus on here is how this inner eye is landing. And we're going to play with this now. We're going to start to play with it, and we'll also get it upgraded and do a little bit of that work here. But what is relevant is that first and foremost, we have two different sets of programming that are running, because we have masculine energy, which is going to be your external expression. And then we have feminine energy, which is obviously how is that inner vision tracking? So how is your brain, how is this pineal gland and everything that's being perceived and interpreted as you shift into masculine energy functioning and seeking to take action and analyze and assess? And we could, at some levels, we could call that the ego, right? Where we flip into that level of circuitry. But really there's a filtering process. And this is the true function of our inner vision, is to filter how the information from the energy body is coming through. And so for those of you that have done Metatron code or been with me for a while, one of the elements that we speak about is that it's like our desires come up through the earth, through our human self. And it's like a pinball, as that desire maybe being a little seed that comes up and through, makes its way through that mula bandha into the energy field. And then it starts to ping off of the different energy centers. And each of those energy centers are holding and storing emotions, and they're storing programs that tell you, hey, this is how you should handle the emotion of shame. This is how you should handle all of this. And so by the time that seed or that desire gets, say, to your throat, where we now transfer from the subconscious body into the conscious mind, it's taken on a whole different set. It's come through all of those filters, which has whittled it down and kind of melded it into what your energy body thinks it should look like, how that desire can be experienced. And so what do? We develop a projection about it. We make an assumption. We start to limit our potential and our possibilities. So feeling that desire now, I've kind of got it queued up in everyone's throat, and feel what that is based on what you've learned, your programming, everything you've experienced. You don't even have to know what the desire is, just imagining that seed of light sitting within your throat as we start to analyze it before we fully bring it into the third eye. Just breathe in and out. Really let that settle in. And don't worry about the emotions if you're having some emotion around that desire or judgment, because truly we want a third eye that's functioning on a program with zero judgment incorporated. So the next component that gets added into the third eye that we experience is, again, that masculine functioning. So the desire comes through, that seed of desire gets melded into something, and then we shift into the masculine function. Breathing in and out here. Hope everyone's having fun. This is so fun to play with these different energy centers, isn't it? Okay. Now, I mentioned 3 different elements of the third eye. We have 2 different primary lineages, the Hindu and the Egyptian. Evil eyes, third eyes, Nezars go way, way, way back, even predating those specific cultures. So what do we get to do with it? How do we interpret? Well, the Nezar is, as we know it, is the evil eye. It's insinuating a need for protection, as is the eye of Horus. And the eye of Ra is potential. The eye of Horus and eye of Ra, the Egyptian, is less about protection and more about your inner vision. So let's focus in first on the Nezar and why we would need to have bands of protection. So I want you to find that band of protection, that code, if you will, imagining it almost like we're going to go left side, inner vision here, feminine side, because our inner vision is always what needs protecting, right? The masculine more so is what we're putting out there. And so that inner vision, those ideas and the way the seed of idea has come through, it's like the perception is, okay, I have something brilliant and oh my gosh, I need to be protected so no one can interpret or see, or they'll be jealous, right? I have a handful of clients that are very practiced and their cultures have brought them in through this vision of the evil eye and jealousy on the need for protection. It's warding off evil. But we get to ask ourselves, why, right? Why do we even need to ward off evil? Evil is a construct. Evil is also growth potential because it presents a challenge. It presents something that if we can spot it, then we've got it. So it's acknowledging that there's evil within you. If you can feel evil, if you can feel those protections, if you can feel that jealousy, then it's living within you. So one of those filters that seed of desire came through impacted and wove this band of protection around this idea of brilliance. And so there's some programming in there. So I want to have you envision that little orb, that seed in your throat. And as we start to draw it through, I want to have you not strip away. I almost said strip away. I want to have you incorporate, strip away the coding, if you will, with gratitude that gave you these lessons, that taught you to call in protection, because it does warrant and it does merit and it is needed. But we're trying to find it within ourselves so that what we're attracting into the world doesn't warrant the need for more protection or doesn't attract in more evil. So stripping that energy away, breathing in and out, imagining it like armor, if you will, like little layers of like an egg cracking open. Let's do that. And the shell being peeled off. And as that egg makes its way, that seed makes its way, we've pulled the husk off the seed and bringing it in to rest in the pineal gland and allowing the expansiveness on the left eye vision to totally open. So I want to bring you back now and have you tune in to your white room. And just allow that inner vision and that desire to begin to present itself. We're going to only do left side. So it's as though the walls entirely to your left begin to play out a scene. Maybe it's a scene from a forest. Maybe it's a time in a past life when you last activated your inner vision at this level, in this capacity. Beautiful. And now coming back to center, coming back to that little burst of light in the center of your mind. Breathing as we call upon the eye of Horus. If you haven't noticed or didn't see them already, you can feel the bands of angels and remembrance working its way into your system. It's almost as though you can feel new circuitry firing, imagining bolts of lightning sparking from one neurosynaptic response to the next in your eye as we prepare to shift to the right side of the pineal, to the right side, our outer action and vision. You may be wondering why I'm assigning each of these respectively. I want to have you think about being able to re-envision your 3D world. Re-envision your 3D world. For Eye of Horus, it may feel like someone's pulling out your inner eye, right? And replacing it with new. That seed is going to open and expand. It's as though you've brought those codes through. Just taking a moment. For the Eye of Horus is all about your inner vision. And what if, so often people, I use the terminology, as you know, if you're familiar with my work, we can see. And yet, if you know me, you know that 9 times I'm certainly not opening my eyes and seeing. And that sense of seeing is coming from, like, if I were to tell you literally what I am seeing in my inner vision right now, it's just all white. Like there's no projections, nothing. So my primary intuition comes from knowing and sensing and feeling and all of the cues I'm getting from my body, the sensations I'm feeling. And I just roll with that, trusting that I am holding on a collective level for this work that gets done. And oftentimes as I do that, I feel everything that's happening for you, which is how I'm able to say something that you're experiencing at the moment. So for you, what if we could have our eyes open literally and be able to see the binary in the walls, the ones and the zeros that are running in the quantum field? What if we could have our eyes open and see aura easily? And some people have those gifts, but not everyone does. And each of us have different and unique gifts. So as we work with this Eye of Horus, it's essentially, I often think of the Eye of Horus coming in and it looking like an implant, like what we see in common knowledge and not common knowledge in the movies, mainstream culture, like an implant being inserted, new programming, new ways of connecting. This is such a cool upgrade. So whether you're getting those visuals or not, what I want to have you start to feel into is what if you could see your external world from this advanced intuitive capacity. So what I want to have you do is imagine, well, you could do it right where you're at, placing your hand on the chair or the floor where you're sitting. I often like to activate it by touching a wall and just imagine like ants and like code moving across the screen, the ones and zeros. Now I have some clients that can write and channel in binary, and they're able to decipher and write code for the body and the systems based in binary. It's so fun to hear their connections. Just imagining as you sit in this white room now, placing your hand against the outside surface of that white wall, activating it, and all of the ones and zeros turning on. All of that programming beneath the programming surface. Notice if they're one against a black screen and green, or against a black screen and white, or a white screen with black digits. Just play around, see what you get, what you interpolate. Awesome. Now I want to have you imagine walking through a crowd. And I say a crowd because, for example, we could be at the airport, where it's really, I'm thinking of like a busy, busy space on a busy New York street, right? And so many people are coming at us. And so that's a lot. I don't always recommend opening your field. Your body does natural protection mechanisms, and that is a hotbed, just like viruses can be picked up if we're open to that in our auric field. Opening your field can be, I suggest doing this in doses, right? Because when you really open your inner vision, you potentially are opening your field to seeing things that you maybe don't want to see. I'm just giving the precursor and the warning to this visual. If you were to go out into public and try it, to just be, it's not the need for protection again, but you're going to see a lot of stuff that your inner body is accustomed to toning down, and there are reasons for it, and you're not sitting quietly. So you're going to be taking in a lot of the external variables and trying to shift into your inner vision. But we're going to build to that. It is something that can absolutely be done. Just more so while you're learning it, I suggest being careful, but I do recommend playing with this because it'll build this muscle for this inner vision. We're going to do that next. So I want to have you imagine a sea of people presenting themselves in your room of reflection. And so those white walls are now reflecting and projecting onto you, a sea of people. And as they're walking at you, instead of seeing individuals, notice first, actually, before I have you flip to your inner vision, how your body receives and responds to large groups of people as you trigger this in your mind's eye. It kind of like the heart maybe clinches up a little bit. You definitely can feel your auric field putting up its band of like solid, like we're zipped shut. We know better than to take in everyone's stuff. So now gazing out across that sea of people walking past you, busy at the mall, you can smell the different perfumes and colognes and smells from the street. And now envisioning ones and zeros. And oftentimes binary doesn't show up on people, but it can be around them. And now shifting to the auric field. Really let that projection guide you. Let your superconscious show you what is being seen and processed in a visual manner. Maybe you focus in on one person as though we've frozen the frame. And in that snapshot, you can see a glow, and you can see outlining their body. Almost oftentimes it's dark first around immediately on the body because that's the most dense energy. And then it becomes like yellows and greens, or it could be darker pinks, purples, and then it gets into some yellows and greens. And just notice how tight in on the body that energy is, or how expanded. Most people are going to be tight in when they're in a crowd as well. And now go ahead and see if you can't add more people to the scene. Beautiful. Now I want to have you take one of those people you were just observing, total stranger, right? And put them in a mountain meadow and really invite their aura to expand. And while you're using your inner vision, trusting that as this muscle builds, as this neurocircuitry builds, it can be something that you see literally sometimes, especially in the right lighting. Like if you're watching actors on a stage, you absolutely can start to track on their auric fields because the lighting is just low enough, you're just relaxed enough to fully turn this on without recognizing that it's there. Beautiful. And now coming back to center, coming back to the white room, coming back to your pineal gland, all the way in your inner mind. And now feel like a branches of a tree that have expanded out in your brain, how much circuitry is illuminated and lit up right now. And again, it's okay. It can take a while. Like with pineal gland, we're working with, first of all, there's 6 different chakras also that are like the projection hubs, if you will, that are running off of the pineal gland. Those chakras are running off of absolute Kundalini life force. It takes a certain level of power to be activating those other chakras, but that's for another time, another conversation. So just trusting what's here. And the more you come in and play with this, when you're working with clients, when you're doing your meditation, shifting into this space, toggling it, playing with it, looking for the binary, looking for the auric fields. And the next thing we're going to look for, I want to have you do an astral. Just using that filter to astrally project, imagining a star, and notice how quick and easy it is to flip right into a night skyscape with the stars, and then focusing in on a star. And then very much like Avatar, landing in the center of that star, in the center of that system, and feeling the frequency in that dimensional space. And trusting and knowing that where you just came to is where this pocket of energy for this inner vision, this inner Horus eye is stored, where you secreted it away, where you maybe even last experienced it, or are similarly now tracking in this other dimensional space, off planet, off dimension of Earth at the same time. And feeling yourself sinking now with the archetypal expression, that version of you that's tracking. And feeling it like a Russian nesting doll, one of your layers of your energy body, like almost like a very human, literal expression, like a ghost moving into your system. But this isn't walk-in. This is you in a different dimensional space activating. Taking a nice deep breath in, exhaling out. How fun is this, right? Okay, we are wrapping up. I want to conclude, close the loop on one other element. As you envision that desire coming up again now and through your system, go ahead and draw that desire through, a new desire, a new seed, a little orb of energy up and through the root, allowing it to track straight up to your inner vision. And notice how the projections have changed. There's no bands of restriction. You may actually feel some pressure, actual pressure in the right or the left side of your head. And that's okay. That's just the energy releasing, new programming, implementing, bringing a new desire through, allowing it to be stripped of that husk, of that shell, whatever may be there, if there was one there. And notice how we take the projections, we take our desires, and what do we do with them? We create a project. And to accomplish that project, we create a set of goals. And depending on how we track with our goals, we then assess and judge our success in the world. So your third eye, the inner eye, the eye of Horus, the eye of Ra. The eye of Ra is running the filter for your God consciousness. We didn't track, well, we did, actually, we activated eye of Ra when we did the astral projection. You have all of this vision, and whether you were able to track with me on the different imagery I was giving you, just know that for where you are, these are the goals, right? If I've seeded it and it didn't come all the way through, this is a muscle to build. It is not just like, boom, you're going to have it. And even if you had everything I said, trust me, there is so many more layers to go. We're just playing right now. We are playing and having fun. But what if you could, when you have your idea and you're working on your goals, or you've gotten hit with a trigger, come back to this and run the seed desire through this part of the system. How it could open your mind and your consciousness, help you see from a new perspective, help you see the quantum space. We did all kinds of quantum techniques today, didn't we? Quantum tunneling, projection, bilocation. We had fun. So with that now, what I want to have you do is, as you're slowly coming back, I want to have you match your inner vision with that of your outer vision. And oftentimes that means, okay, just open your eyes. Nope. Really take your time. Use your full sensory body to support you with this. Call upon a bright vision, maybe envisioning an orb in that room, hovering out in front of you, about 3 feet out in front of you, or 3 feet to the top of your head. And as you slowly bring your vision back, feeling the room and the environment, if you're outside, the breeze blowing, feeling that orb activating. And as you open your eyes, go ahead and use that inner vision simultaneously. Find where it is and attune in. See if you can't see with your actual eyes, because it's not your actual eyes that see, it's the blending, it's the merging. So if you're getting an eye in your vision, it's because there's a merging of the inner vision with the outer vision. New programming, a new ability coming on board. See if you can't see that halo around you. See if you can't look at a plant or something outside, or something with a lot of energy in it, like a couch or a meditation chair, and feel the energy that's stored in it. Or avatar style, see the energy emanating, much like heat off of a hot pavement. Amazing. You guys are so much fun, so much love, so much love. Now that you're all the way back, welcome back. And I am going to also be broadcasting a meditation for tomorrow. So we are going to activate tomorrow. Look forward to seeing you. Hope you can make it in. I will put a notice in the chats as well. Namaste. So much.